Happy Veterans Day and welcome to the Legal Proof briefing, where we discuss bite-sized business and legal topics to help you build, grow, and protect your brand. I am your host, Latanya Moore, and today's topic is going to be a little bit different, guys. We are going to talk about when lawyers go too far. First, before I jump into the topic, I want to thank all of you that have reached out to me in the DM, whether you are watching on or contacting me actually through YouTube. So whether you're watching on any other social media platform, I've had several people to reach out to me and ask me about some of the legal challenges that are happening now with the election. So, of course, with our legal proof briefing, as you know, this is our bite-sized program. So I wanted to make sure that when we talked about this, that I was able to give you a little bit more than just a smidge, right? So I want to really talk about this really from the perspective of, I don't know if some of you may have seen this, and if you haven't seen this, make sure that you go and look for this. But there has been excerpts of the transcript from one of the challenges, and the biggest portion of that people are talking about is where the lawyer presents to the judge that there were no people with Republican interest there doing the recount, right, during the ballot count. And so the judge asks how many were there, and this person says, well, net zero or something, right? Like there's this term. And the judge then essentially says, I'm asking you this as an officer of the court. And so I wanted to talk about that today because I've had several people ask me, what does that mean? Why does that matter? What does that have to do with anything? And some of you may not know that as a lawyer, your first ethical duty is to the court, which means that you are under an ethical obligation to make sure that what you are presenting and representing is true and factual to the best of your knowledge, right? Now, that is a fine line because, of course, you certainly cannot give away any client confidences or violate privilege, but you're also not supposed to support perjury. And you're definitely not supposed to present frivolous, unfounded arguments. And that's not to talk about this particular case. It is really just to give you an example and to answer some of those questions. It really boils down to that. Because again, as an attorney, our first duty is being an officer of the court, making sure that we are not skirting the ethical line, but also just making sure that we are walking in integrity. Now, of course, we know that some people may cross the line. But I will tell you that when you see that, or if you hear that, if you are in a courtroom or in a court case, and the judge says, I am actually asking you this as an officer of the court. If you hear that happens, that means that the judge, well, let me not say a declaration. It could mean, right? Make sure I'm being correct. It could mean that the judge has a concern that what you are representing is not true. And that is giving you the opportunity to fix it, to cure it, to make sure that you understand that this could put you in a bad ethical dilemma, and unfortunately you could be reported to the bar. And so I wanted to talk about that today, because I think that we get away from that. We move away from that because we see there's so many lawyer shows, there's so many cop shows, right? There's so many shows where you see that there's a lot of underhandedness happening. And I'm not saying that it's not necessarily true in some regard, but I think that this is why people are shocked when they hear that there is an ancillary ethical standard that really is a duty to the court, not just a duty to the client. Most of the ethical rules that we have as lawyers, and believe it or not, every bar association is supposed to and does have an ethics committee. There is a code of ethics that we are supposed to follow. I know in the state that I'm licensed in, I have to have at least yearly training on ethical matters. Didn't used to be like that, but now it is. And so this is how you know that ethics is so very important, because once the bar says, in addition to your actual legal training, your actual training to allow you to do your job better and more efficient, and allows you to stay up to date on all of the laws in your particular area of practice, there's also a duty to be ethical, right? There's also a duty to help you understand ethics in the context of the work that you do. And so we want to make sure that if you have a question about that, because again, I know we talked about the other thing, but this really applies across the board. Some of you may have seen, because I know I shared it with my LinkedIn crew, where I asked just straight up, right? I provided a picture that included a portion of the transcript that I was talking about at the top of this feed, and I asked from the lawyers, like, when you hear this, what does this mean to you, right? Because I'm telling you, this is something that I've never seen before. I think that everyone has a right to, you definitely have a right to challenge anything that you think is not above board. That's definitely not what I'm saying. But I think as lawyers, we have to know when to stop. We have to know when that line is. And the question is, what happens next? And so in this particular scenario, this lawyer came back and answered the question, yes, right? The question being, was there anyone in the room who was there to protect the interest of the Republicans in that particular situation? And eventually the attorney had to answer yes, after what appears he or she, because I don't know who the attorney is, but after they tried, right, after they tried to say that, or insinuate that there was no one in there, net zero, right? What does that mean? And so there are lots of things that could happen next. I mean, quite frankly, someone could, if they know who this attorney is and if they felt the need to do so, there could be some questions, right, that this person may have to answer from an ethical side. They may need to understand, like, this is something that is not acceptable. Now, I am not sure where this person's licensed, but those are things that could definitely happen. So there's a lot that could go forth, that could actually go forth from this, even that small exchange, even that one part. Because again, I've not read the transcript in its entirety, but it doesn't matter what's happening in its entirety when we look at that particular exchange. And because you asked about it, I wanted to make sure to bring those things to your attention today in our legal briefing. So again, thank you guys so much for being here with me as part of the Legal Brief. We are here every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. For those of you that want to connect with me on Facebook, please connect with me in the Legalproof Your Legacy Facebook group. That's Legalproof Your Legacy Facebook group. Also, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel at Real Perspectives TV. If you are on LinkedIn, make sure that you connect with me. Otherwise, you can find out more about me. See that? At iprotectyourbrand.com. Listen, veterans, thank you so much for your service. And guys, please enjoy the rest of your day.